You want to own a National Football League franchise. You picture yourself standing on the pristine, perfectly manicured grass on a Sunday afternoon, wearing a tailored suit, looking up at 80,000 screaming fans. You imagine lifting the Lombardi Trophy while the silver confetti falls around you, and the network television cameras broadcast your face to the entire country. You think of it as the ultimate status symbol, the final crowning purchase a billionaire makes when buying super yachts, private jets, and massive technology companies simply is not enough to satisfy the ego anymore. You think you are buying a sports team. And from the outside, watching the highlights on television and listening to the sports radio debates, it certainly looks exactly like that. But talk to the investment bankers, the league executives, and the corporate lawyers who actually broker these massive, multi-billion-dollar transactions, and they will tell you something very different. When you buy a professional football franchise in America, you are not really buying a sports team. You are buying a legally sanctioned, federally protected, closed-market monopoly. You are acquiring a live entertainment broadcasting company attached to a highly subsidized commercial real estate portfolio. The profit margins are effectively guaranteed by design. The catastrophic financial risks that plague normal retail and commercial businesses are entirely engineered out of the system. And the underlying financial mechanics that make this happen operate in a shadow economy that most casual fans completely ignore when they are yelling at their television screens on a Sunday evening. To truly understand why this American business model is so bulletproof, you have to look across the ocean at how the rest of the sporting world operates. If you evaluate the financial operations of owning a Premier League club, the contrast is staggering. A club fighting for mid-table survival lives in a state of constant, suffocating financial terror. In global football, the system demands a ruthless meritocracy. If your team performs poorly on the pitch, you finish at the bottom of the table, and you are relegated to a lower division. The moment that relegation happens, the financial floor falls out from under you. Your massive television broadcasting revenue vanishes instantly. Your major corporate sponsorships evaporate because the contracts contain relegation clauses. Your most valuable players demand immediate transfers. A single bad season can destroy half of your franchise value overnight, plunging the business into massive debt and structural ruin. The anxiety of hovering near that drop zone dictates every single financial decision the club makes. The National Football League looked at that system and eliminated the risk entirely. There are exactly 32 franchises. There is no lower division. There is no relegation. If your team loses every single game of the season, you do not get kicked out of the league. In fact, the league actively rewards your failure. They hand you the first overall pick in the next player draft, essentially giving you the most valuable amateur talent in the country to ensure you become competitive again. You are operating inside an impenetrable walled garden. No new competitor can open a rival football team across the street and steal your local fan base, because the other 31 owners must unanimously vote to allow any new franchise into their exclusive club. They have artificially capped the supply of teams at 32, while the demand for the product continues to grow exponentially. It is a cartel, and it is entirely legal. If you want to know where the real structural money comes from, look up at the broadcast booths, not down at the ticket gates. The underlying engine of the entire enterprise is national revenue sharing. Every decade, the league executives travel to the headquarters of the major television networks and massive technology companies. They sit down with the executives of these media empires and negotiate broadcasting rights contracts that defy all standard economic logic. Recently, they secured long-term broadcasting deals worth over $110 billion over a period of 11 years. This staggering amount of money does not go solely to the teams that win the most games. It is placed into a giant central pool and divided equally among all 32 franchises. Before your stadium doors even open for the first preseason game, before you sell a single hot dog, a single foam finger, or a single parking pass, the league wires your bank account roughly $400 million. That is your equal, guaranteed share of the national television money, the collective merchandising rights, and the national corporate sponsorships. Rain or shine, win or lose, economic recession or economic boom, that national television check clears every single year. The networks are desperate for live sports because it is the absolute last category of television that consumers still watch live, forcing them to sit through the commercial breaks rather than skipping them. The owners know they hold the keys to the last remaining mass culture audience in the country, and they extract a historic premium for it. While the national television money is divided equally, the local revenue you generate is yours to keep. This local money is exactly where the incredibly wealthy owners separate themselves from the merely rich owners. Local revenue consists of standard ticket sales, naming rights to the stadium, local radio broadcasting deals, and most importantly, luxury suites and premium hospitality. A regular working-class fan buys a seat in the upper deck for $150. But a local insurance corporation leases a luxury box for $500,000 a season to entertain their high-net-worth clients. That luxury suite money flows directly to your bottom line. But to maximize this local revenue, you need a state-of-the-art stadium. And modern stadiums cost billions of dollars to construct. This is where the leverage of owning a scarce, culturally vital asset comes into play. If you own a regular retail business and want to build a new warehouse, you go to a commercial bank and take out a loan at market interest rates. If you own a professional football team and want a new stadium, you go to the local city council and demand that the taxpayers pay for it. You tell the mayor that the stadium will bring temporary construction jobs, tourism, and civic pride. But underneath that polished public relations pitch is a quiet, ruthless threat. If the city refuses to use taxpayer money to fund your new stadium, you will simply pack up the moving trucks in the middle of the night and move the franchise to another city that is desperate enough to build you one. Time and time again, local governments fold. They issue hundreds of millions of dollars in municipal bonds to build the billionaire owner a brand new concrete and glass palace. And then, the owners deploy one of the most brilliant financial extraction tools ever invented, the personal seat license. Before a fan can even purchase a season ticket in the new stadium, they must pay a one-time fee just for the right to buy that ticket. These seat licenses can cost anywhere from $5,000 to over $100,000 per seat. The owners use this cash injection from the fans to pay off whatever small portion of the stadium construction they were actually responsible for. You collect the suite revenue, you sell the naming rights to a technology company for $20 million a year, and the local citizens spend the next 3 decades paying off the construction debt through increased sales and hospitality taxes. In most heavy industries, labor costs are the unpredictable variable that keeps chief executives awake at night. If revenue drops but the workers demand higher wages, or if rival companies start poaching your best talent, the profit margin collapses. Once again, the league engineered a structural solution that protects the billionaire owners from their own worst competitive instincts. It is called the hard salary cap. The owners and the players' union operate under an overarching collective bargaining agreement. They agree that the players will receive approximately 48% of all league revenue, and the owners will keep the remaining 52%. But more importantly, the league mandates a strict, absolute maximum limit on what any single team is allowed to spend on player salaries in a given year. If the salary cap is set at $250 million, you cannot spend $260 million, no matter how rich you are or how badly you want to win a championship. The media sells this to the public as a way to force competitive balance, ensuring big markets cannot outspend small markets. But financially, it is a stroke of absolute corporate genius. It prevents billionaires with massive egos from engaging in bidding wars that destroy their own profit margins. You do not have to outspend your rivals to survive, because the league rules literally make it illegal to do so. Your largest operating expense is mathematically fixed, artificially suppressed, and entirely predictable. Furthermore, the draft system forces the best amateur players entering the workforce to sign strictly controlled, 4-year contracts with predetermined wages. The players have zero free market leverage when they enter the league. The system operates as absolute socialism for the 32 owners, and ruthless, capped capitalism for the players sacrificing their physical health. When you add up the massive, guaranteed national television revenue, subtract the strictly capped labor costs, and factor in the taxpayer-subsidized stadium income, A well-run franchise might generate $100 million to $200 million in sheer operating cash flow every single year. That is an incredible yield. But in this specific business, the annual operating profit is just the spare change found in the couch cushions. The true, generational wealth creation happens in the underlying equity value of the franchise itself. In the late 1980s, an oil wildcatter named Jerry Jones purchased the Dallas franchise for roughly $140 million. The media called him foolish for overpaying. Today, that exact same franchise is valued at over $9 billion. When the Washington franchise was recently sold to a private equity consortium, the final transaction price was over $6 billion. These massive historic valuations are driven by extreme artificial scarcity. There are thousands of billionaires in the world today, constantly being minted by the software sector, the private equity industry, and foreign energy markets. But there are still only 32 professional football teams in America. It is the ultimate restricted asset class. Let us look at the final outcomes. In the realistic worst-case scenario, you hire terrible general managers, you draft awful players, you alienate your dedicated fan base, and you lose the vast majority of your games for a decade straight. Your stadium sits half empty in December, and the local sports media mocks your incompetence relentlessly. But because of the equal revenue sharing and the hard salary cap, your franchise still turns a healthy annual profit. And the underlying equity value of the team continues to appreciate by hundreds of millions of dollars simply because the broadcasting contracts continue to grow larger.